Right, before we start this video, big thumbs up to everybody. We're just over 2,000 subscribers now, and that's incredible. This is way beyond my expectation, I've got to say. I'm well chuffed with it. So thank you very much for everybody who subscribes. Thank you for your comments. I love reading them, like responding to them, and getting to know one or two now which commenting quite regular, so that's nice. It's getting a bit of backwards forwards going as well in the conversations a little bit as well, so that's fantastic. I say it's more than I expected, and because the subscriptions are gaining momentum, the views are gaining momentum, and the money I'm earning on it is gaining a little bit more momentum as well. So that's brilliant. In fact, the last bit of money I earned on it, I used it to buy a part to repair the MX5. So happy days. Thank you very much for that. Well, here we go again with another one. So the wing is complete and happy. That's fitting nicely. Quite pleased with how that's come out. So we're going to way back now onto the door as promised. Yeah, it was a bit of a mess. To be fair, you'll see what it comes out like. You'll see the first clip is me stripping it down and then being quite disappointed with what's behind the filler. We have managed to repair the door. We'll need a bit more filler again afterwards just to flush it all back off again, but it's not too bad. You'll see that at the end of the result of that. I had nothing to lose in having a go at doing this because the door was had it anyway, it's scrap the way it was. So it's either have a go and see if it can be repaired, and if it can, thumbs up. If it can't, then we've had a go at trying it. So keep watching, you see how we go about repairing it. Alrighty, let's find out what horrors are hiding behind this filler on our door here. You can see, hopefully you can see that there's a bit of damage on the door. So I'm glad now I stuck with the idea of bringing the door to meet the wing. That's definitely the wrong shape down the front. There's been knocked back there at some time in the past. So before we do anything, I think we'll get a paint stripping disc on this and take the first 4 inches or so of this door back to metal and see what we got. This is what we'll be using, these metal paint stripping discs. These are brilliant. They rip the paint off, don't really damage the steel underneath, and they don't get very hot, so I'm quite pleased with these. It's like the Grand Canyon, don't they? Yikes. Okay. I'm going to have a good long think about what to do about this. I suspect it's going to be the lines of either another decent second-hand door or reskin of this one. I think I will at least try to get behind it, see if I can push some of that out. If I can get it to a thin layer of filler, I could live with that. I don't expect to get this anything like a perfect metal finish, but I can't. That's nearly half an inch of filler in there. You can't live with that. Okay, maybe I shouldn't be quite so defeatist. Okay, so the other side, it is basically straight. Door's fairly straight. No great shapes in it. And of course we've got to roll that way, but we can make a roll that way. So I think I will have a go at repairing that door after all. My thinking is quite simple. This door's had it. It's scrap as it is. So the worst I can do to it is make scrap. And we're already there. So I've got no harm in trying to repair this and potentially save myself 250 quid plus shipping for a door skin. So I'm prepared to give it a go. So what I'm going to simply do is do a section at a time on this, and we'll start with the top section here and see what happens. And my theory is simply make a tape template and keep going and see what happens. So watch your space and see how we get on. What's the worst that can happen?
No comment.
And I'm overlapping onto the wing on purpose because I'm thinking I can use that edge of the wing as the edge of the bit of panel I'm going to make, and then just move it back a panel width gap, if that makes sense. Hopefully it will. Lighten that up with me gap, so that'll be the bottom of me panel there. Nice new sharp blade. So you want to come down here somewhere. So let's go with about there. And follow this round. Oh, messages. Peel that off, and you should have a template for the panel to go there. So turn that into steel, same way as I usually do with the jigsaw, and see what we get.
We shall return.
We shall return with a cut-out piece. Get a metal cutout of that shape. So what we'll do, I think, is simply just press it to get a panel, basic panel shape out of it. Maybe a hammer would be useful. Oh, that's got a nice shape on it, just not a million miles off. Okay, so that's following that nicely down there, and find a way of getting that to follow over there now without losing that shape over there. Let's just try hammering it and see what happens. Like I said, what's the worst that can happen? Right, so what I think I'll do now is simply cut that off and get my proper scribe line there. So I want to line up my panel gap. I'll go slightly over because we can cut back to it. Scribe that down there. And cut that out with the grinder. Grind those edges off now so we can peel it off of there.
Well, that's not good.
No, it's rotted. Rotted rhubarb there. Right, so before we put that in there, let's do a little repair on that. Keeps on growing, doesn't it? It's always the same. Okay, so now we've got that off of there, we can shape this a bit better. Stay. So we'll line up with the wing a bit better.
I'm trying to. On camera, you can definitely.
Yeah, only need a slight tap down. So,
yeah.
So this piece now will simply well into there, and we can then feed that down. What I think I'll do after I did a little repair to that is tack that in down there, because that's a nice, that fits there nicely. That does better than I thought it would. Tack that in down there and then work our way over to here to get the shape on this. Okay, first job, Dremel this out and tidy this up. That'll do it. Lovely. Okay, let's stick that in there. That'll do Right, okay, back to on track. So now we can tack this into there, work way across to there, then cut where we want the gap to be, and then we'll play around with on the other side with a false lip on it, effectively. So we should put a bit of paint
Spray
on that first.
Now we have to let that dry for a couple of minutes, but you'll be back in a second.
Right, so simple plan. Put that into there, tack that into place, possibly tack that corner there, and then start hammer forming this to suit everything behind. So I'm not expecting to get a perfect metal finish with this. I am expecting to have to put some filler over this, but I don't want the amount of filler that's going to need. But a little skim I can live with. And that won't be our final gap, because by the time we put a piece in the back and weld it, that'll build it back up again, and then we'll be grinding it back to our final gap. So next thing we'll do is grind these welds down flush before we start attacking the next bit. That looks like a bit of door. There's a little bit of a bump there, but we can certainly be able to do something with that. It's very, you can't see it, you can just feel it just slightly. I think that might be just be grinding marks rather than actual bumps. So
And just about from this angle, you can just see it.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But a very, very light skimmer filler.
It actually
We'll sort that.
just about comes up on camera.
Oh yeah, brilliant. Happy day. So that edge of wing, that needs to come up, just to come to that, because you can see now where we've ground it, you can see how that is dropping down there. So we'll, rather than drop that to suit that, we'll bring that up to suit this. Lovely. Okay, that's gone quite well, so I'm quite buoyed by that. So let's make a start on the next bit. Same again, I think we'll use the tape to go to get our lines lined up. I might get a Sharpie on that actually, so I can get a better idea where the line is. Just there and there.
Yeah. It's a bit of a deep one, that.
It's not pretty. We're just going to get bigger and more adventurous as we go down. And this is the first time I've done something this adventurous, as much on exterior body panel. I'm quite, as you've seen, I'm happy to do this under the car, and I've never really tried it at this extent. I've done little patches on exterior panels and what have you, and sills and that, but something this adventurous, this is new for me, so I'm working this out as I'm going along. Hopefully it's helpful. Right, that should be thick enough. There we go. That should be, looks piece we need.
Do you want to mark that?
Sorry?
Do you want to mark so you know which way's up?
Probably a good idea. How do we forget these things? Now we're getting a little bit more challenging as we're going, because this of course has got a roll on it that way, so we're going to find a way of getting that nice roll on it. Right, so simply stick that on there and cut around it. Just want to be a nice straight edge at this. That's the straight edge. Let's work with that one. Right, jigsaw time. Super piece of door. The next challenge is to work out how to get that roll in it. Now it's going to be the same roll as that, I guess. It's going to be the same shape as we go. So how are we going to do it? It's going to be more than just doing that, that's for sure. Can we simply do that, I wonder? Get it? A million miles off. Can't be that easy. Life's never that easy.
Well, it's telling you deserve a break.
Not a million miles off there, is it? Just needs to come in a little bit more around there. Well,
Yeah, I probably wouldn't trust it. The bow around here though,
yeah,
because
just
of
like that sticking out like as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just seeing if it basically is, and that's not too shabby there. I'm saying that edge is the one that needs to be there, so we could try that up against the wing there. It's not too bad, a little bit over there. Yeah, so just by playing with it by hand, we've managed to get not a bad shape on that. Maybe a touch more there. So that'll follow the wing profile nicely there now. So it's just a case of welding this onto the door, cutting it out and slamming it in. So
in fairness, I thought that was going to be a lot more difficult.
And I did, as it happens. So we can peel that sticker off.
Everyone loves a sticker with a car, Dave.
There you go.
So to remind you which way.
Right, let's take that off there a bit and then cut it back. Just flatten that out, put it back.
Just like that, Dave. And that
just
was
like that.
probably the most difficult bit about that repair.
Yeah, unexpectedly enough, you're probably right. I need to get that back into shape now. Right, where is our piece of door?
Oh, yeah. I hid it so I didn't stand on it.
Let's see what it looks like. A little bit of trimming there. And there. A little bit more of a roll just there, look. Imagine how small amount of manipulating it takes, and it's right. Right, okay, let's clean that up next and give that a bit of paint, and the back of that a bit of paint, and then we'll start scribing it in a bit closer. And that's how you paint the inside of your door. Just cut a big piece out of it. It'll be fine. Okay, so what I'll do now, it's the window now, is work my way down, tack it there, it's flush, tack it there, it's flush, tack it there, it's flush, as we go. Let's check if you've got a straight edge along there. Almost. Right, there it is, ground back, and you can see that's come, quite pleased with how that's come up there. Looks like actually part of the panel is a little bit there. I don't want to go grinding too far back with, so it needs a bit of filler there. And where we've come down here, that this has dropped back. I don't know if you see it from that angle. You probably just see it just a little bit. Get a straight edge on that. There we are, you can see there is a little bit of shrinkage there, and that's gonna, I think that's gonna work in our favour, because I can get a little skim of filler over there now, and it will be just a skim. I'm talking about millimetres thick, if that. So it's quite pleased with how this is going. If the next bit goes as well as that, I'll be happy. The next bit is going to be a little bit trickier, because not only have we got this line there, it sort of curls up to the line, so this panel is going to need a little bit of a tip on the edge, so work out how we're going to do that next. Right, so carry on down again now. You see this is sticking out here, Well, this, once we flip the door over and work on the other side, so effectively make that return on it, that will then pull that back to where it belongs. So not too worried about that. So we'll carry on now down to the next panel. So I won't bother filming, taping this off and cutting the piece. And I'll sort of come in and out as I'm doing it, because it's exactly the same process of what I've done with the first two pieces there, just working the way down the door. They're just getting bigger. So there it is, all taped up. So what I'll do now is get a straight edge, nice sharp blade, go across there, down there, across there, then follow the blade up through there. Quite toasty today, so I've been in and robbed the fan from the house, keeping me nice and cool. Happy days. Righto, that's that all trimmed up to size, so we'll peel that off now and use that as a template to cut out a bit of steel with a jigsaw. Once that's removed, you can see a nice scribe line there now for us to follow when we cut that bit out. Okay, because someone's bound to ask, so this is our bit of steel we're using, and it is 0.9. It is actually, there we are, it's closer, so 0.95. So it's about 1 mil. I believe it's 0.9, but let's call it 1 mil. So it's not super thick stuff, but it's quite easy to work with, and it's thick enough for what we want to use it for this. Right, so that's the template stuck down onto there now. So what I do on the edges, get my fingernail and really rub it into the corners there. It helps stop it lifting as the jigsaw goes near it. It doesn't stop it completely, but it does help it immensely. I suppose there's a couple of ways you could do this. I suppose I could get a Sharpie and colour in around there, then follow it with a scribe to get a nice edge, but this works for me, so you know, that's the way I do it. But that's, I guess that's another way it could be done. Right, so there's our piece ready to go in, but we've got a bit of work to do yet, because the top of this needs to have a little lip on it. So we see how we're coming up and we're curling up to there. So I'm going to have a little play with a bit of steel now to see what's the best way of doing that, whether you can use the bead roller to do it or just use the dolly. So that's the next challenge. Looking at this isn't quite as defined on the wing as it is on the door. So I think what we'll do is, like I've done before with a thin strip of steel, just use this as a template because it's nice and easy to work with. So we can simply mess about with it and see what happens. There we go. So you can see there now that will follow that nicely. So I need to trim that off right where that's going to be, and then use this as a guide for how we get the pull. So if you try that against your wing, look, that's not quite as defined on the wing. Yes, okay, so what we might be doing is dragging the definition out of it as we come down to here. So we'll see how we get on with it. Right, a bit of steel here to play with. Let's see if we can get an idea of how our radius is going to work. I'm wondering if I'm going to need to spot weld this right in the corners, just where I want the bend to start. Right, let's just give it a tap and see what happens. Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to move around. Okay. Well, that's not too bad. It's a little bit over, if anything, but I think I'll try that up against the door now and see what it looks like. It's the right idea, and once it's in place, you get this sort of idea of what I'm trying to achieve here. We can get our swage line hopefully where we want it. It's going to be a challenge, there's no doubt about it, but like I said, I've got nothing to lose on this door, so it's worth a go. Right, so the practice piece told me that I've started too early, so we really just want it right kicking over right just at the top there. Yeah, that's the idea. Yes, okay, that's all that took. And keep that straight down through there, so that's keeping its nice straight edge there. So alright, happy days. That was a little easier than I thought it was going to be. The next shape we've got to get is our body roll. I think this is just being over the knee job. Up there. Right, that's not looking too shabby. I do say so. A little bit more of a bend in it. Right, now we're getting somewhere. That's following the profile of the door, and I've got that swage line in there. Now, not for a moment am I imagining this is going to be a finish with just metal. I'm well aware of my limitations. It's going to be put it in as best I can, and then if it's close enough, I'll put straight edge across it. If it's close enough, then if there's only going to be a small amount of filler, then I'll go ahead with the filler. If it gets away from me and it's awful, then I'll replace the door. Right, next thing, let's cut this out. Yeah, there's a big blob of sound in there on the back of that. That's going to cause us problems. Right, so from here, you can see we've got some old sound deadening there to get rid of, which is the other bit of that. So what I'm simply going to do is get a blade in behind there and cut it all off. Otherwise it's going to play havoc with our welding. Right, before we go any further, I need to pull the wing off and work with this lip here. To bring it out a little bit. I'll show you why. If I get a straight edge and go from there, you can see a gap there, which is going to bring us some problems. So what I'll simply do is see the straight edge lines up nicely with the wing there. If I run it from the door, and use that to bring our lip back forward. So wing off, let's do that next. And to do that, simply get a spanner and bring it forwards. So like that. So nothing too exciting, quite straightforward enough. I'm going to crack on with that and show you what we end up with. Right, well, managing unexpectedly to sort out some of this accident damage on the door here, which is good news. So I'm simply just getting a pair of old pump pliers and working it around in the shape, and it's coming up a treat, so happy days. Right, so wing back on. Let's see what we've got. So try the edge across there now and see what sort of gap we're getting. So that's not too bad. That's about getting on for what we're looking for. Possibly down this neck of the woods needs to come out just a little bit more, but let's try our panel in place. It says one-handed, and push it up against to see. Let's see what we got. Right, so we're a little proud there, so we need to knock that back a bit. And down here, we're in just a little bit there, but it's pretty close, so we need to knock in there. So I simply just get a, you can see it on there actually, get a hammer on that to give that a tap in. That's not bad there now. Right, okay, I think we can work with that. So what I'll do now is start tacking this in place. Just as I've done before, I'm not going to worry about filming this. I just tack it all in place as I have done before and work with it. That's the next bit tacked in and not looking too bad. It's gone in a little there, which is, I'm not surprised at. But what we got going on here now is this needs to go against there tighter. So I think before we move further down the door now, I'll start working back to the top and getting the return flange done. So I'll get these gaps tighter, or looser I should say, because they need to be a little bit wider down here, and then take the door off and do a return flange on the other side before we attack this bottom piece. Otherwise, if I fully weld this now, with this bouncing around here, I think we're going to be in a world of pain. So I need to get that under control first and then come back to the other bits. I'm quite pleased with how this has come out. What it looks like after we welded it, it'd be another thing, but just like I did with the top then, we weld on an edge, and when you come to grind it, you just grind it flat one way, and on this one of course we'll be grinding, getting right in that corner, then grinding it out, and then that'll leave you a sharp edge which you can then sort of play with to get it to look like that. So it's not a sharp edge anymore, but it is a nice edge. Next challenge is to make what is effectively our return fold around there. So you can see this needs to come in a little bit. That's no problem. This is why I want to do this now before we move on to fully welding down there, because I don't want this to get too far out of shape. So let's get the door off and do that. Right, so there's the door all cleaned up on the back side of it. So all I'm simply going to do is take strips of metal and make my return flanges like so. It's nothing complicated about it. I'll make those, I'll punch a couple of holes in them for spot welds, and then once they're on there and pinched together, we can then weld the edges up. Right, so first things first, let's work out where he's going to go. I might be able to make that one go. A bend on it. Yeah, that's not too shabby. A couple of punches in that one. I'm not too worried about this edge being perfect yet, because we can straighten that up with a grinder onto this side. So let's spot that one in place and then work our way down. Perfect. Right, next one. That'll do us nicely for that one. Let's get a spot in there, there, and there. Right, so you get the idea of building it up piecemeal as we go down. I've just realised something, a step I've missed out here, and it's too late. I should have put some well-through primer behind there to protect it, but it's too late now, so I'll just get a spray in nice and thick into there, and it'll hopefully pull in somewhat anyway, so a little bit. So my mistake. I should have, in my haste to get on with this, I forgot to do that. Right, so we're getting there. You can see now that the idea is there to bring the shape then together when we're ready to weld the two pieces together. Nice flange to go to. Okay, so you can see what we're trying to achieve now. If I get a clamp on there now, you can see how that is pulling down nicely onto that edge now, just where we want it. So we get a couple of tacks along here now, and that'll hold that in place. What we'll do now is take our slitting disc up there, following the edge of this panel now, and then that'll give us our close gap, or close to gap, and then we'll weld all these along the end here. Probably stand the door up on end to do that to be easier. Right then, so you can see the idea now is this, once it's been fully welded along here, ground back, it will look like that. Just look like it's been folded over from day one. Right, there we go, all welded up. Not particularly attractive, but that's why inventors come up with a grinder, to make ugly welding pretty. You can see on this side, the heat hasn't travelled very far into the panel, because you can see I was being careful with weld, air gun, weld, air gun, weld, air gun, and that minimises distortion. It doesn't stop it, you can't stop it, it just minimises it. So that's not too bad, quite happy with that. So what we'll do next is clean these welds up, and so we get an edge there, which I'll then finish off when it's on the car. Right, now it's starting to look a little bit more like a proper fold. So all I've done is ground to this face up. I've not attempted to do the top face yet. I'll do that once it's back on the car. So I'll do the same now with this side. Grind flat against this edge, and it'll leave this rough edge then, which we can straighten up on the car. But that's strengthened that up. Got no oil canning there so far, so that's good. Righto, I've remembered to put a bit of weld through primer on it before I forget. So you can see the door's not perfect here. There's still some damage there, which I struggle to knock out. There's something going on there, but all of that I can live with. It's all out of sight. There's a repair there to be done, which I'll do that when we're back on, when we're doing that piece down there. But quite happy with how that's coming out so far. So I'll leave that paint to harden off now, and then throw the door back on the car and get that edge correct. Right, there you have the door back on. So see this rough edge there now. Well, we can work with that because there's plenty of weld there to clean back and get that gap nice. So we'll do that next. Right, so the process is fairly simple. Got a grinding wheel on that. Get in there and just keep going up until we match the profile of that. And we'll use something to guide us then as well. Right, as you can see, that didn't take a lot. And we now have a nice gap down there. So the same principle, if you want to gap a door that's all wrong, you can do similar sort of thing to get your door gaps nice. So we'll crack on now with welding across there and welding down there. So I won't worry about bother filming that because it's no different to what we did up there. And so I just crack on with that. Right, so that's that next piece welded in and ground back. Now it's not ground flush. Before I should have done this before I painted it, but as I was grinding I could see it touching either side, so it's time to stop then. So that is sunk in just a little bit, to be expected. It's hardly anything, to be fair, so a little skimmer filler will be perfect for that. And you can see the swage line has come out quite nicely, quite pleased with that. It's nice and straight with the rest of the car, and it all lines up nicely. Lost a little bit on the definition on the edge there, but we do something like that later on. So next section will be this section here, and this bit here will be useful if you're doing a repair. So you see it's rotted out in the corner there, so if you're doing a repair on this corner, this is the sort of thing you would do to repair that anyway. So no different to before, templated it with tape, and then use that to make my patch. Now this has got a slight crown to it, so we'll be putting a little bit of a crown on it, just bending it over my knee. And you can see now where I've put that in place and scribed the line down there. So next thing I was cut that out and then get the right roll on this and get it tacked into place. Right, as we knew, there is a repair to do here. So of course we can't go forwards until we get that sorted, so make a little patch for that and cut that out and weld that in. Right, wing back on, that bit repaired. So now it's just a case of stick that in that hole. Right, so that's as much grinding off as we need to do with that, because it has dropped a touch behind, so it's pointless grinding it off. There's no need to, you're just taking the strength out of it. But you notice as I was grinding down those, as soon as I touch in the sides there, it's time to stop, because it's just pointless carrying on. I can carry on grinding it so it looks pretty for YouTube, but I'm just grinding the strength out of it if I'm doing that. There's just no need. So next thing is to get our wrap around done on the other side like we did here, and then we'll cut up and cut in the gaps correctly. So door back off again and play that game again. Again, it's just a case of making the flange to go around here. So we will follow this one down through here, and we'll follow this nice slender one across here. Right, so that's that sort of roughly put into place. So I'll grind that off now, clean that up. Finish off that bit of weld there. Grind that off, clean it up, paint it, flip the door over, and we'll do these edges just like before. Right, there you go. You can see now that looks like a nice factory. Oh, that bit does me. That bit not so much, but bit of paint to tidy at it. But now you follow it around. Just looks like a fold. So you saw what I've done. Ground this side so it's flush with this bit. Same again on this side. Ground it up. Come on, focus your camera. Right, same on this side. Ground it up so it's flush with the metal. Stop as soon as it started touching this piece. And then get it back on the car and grind off the snobs off there. Back on the car, wing back on. So on off, on off, on off, on off. We're getting there. So nice consistent gap down there now. So just this to grind up and get that right. And then with a bit of paint to protect it for the meantime, and happy days. Door repair complete. That's one less thing I'm going to have to buy. So it's going to need a bit of filler, but not a lot. It's dipped in a little bit on the weld, which is to be expected because of the shrinkage, but not excessively, so I can live with that. But the door gaps are nice there now, considerably better than what they were. So we'll call that a success. And the good news is as well, there's no oil canning, which you often get when you mess around like this. Things go bounce in and out. So happy days. Right, well, you see what sort of challenge that was, but we did overcome it in the end. It's quite happy with the result on that. I've learned a couple of things along the way, and I hope I've managed to impart that across to you guys as well. And just to demonstrate that if something looks beyond saving, it's worth having a crack at it just to see what happens, because I thought I wasn't going to be able to save that. At one point I was, yeah, the door's scrap. I'm just going to have to buy another door, try and get a decent second-hand one, or new skin for that one. But I'm glad I had a go at it, because you can see now it's a good enough result with a bit of preparation and a bit of filling. I'm talking about small. I'm only going to need a very small amount of fill to get that up to nice and flush and nice, and happy days. So thanks again for watching. Please do subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Helps enormously. And thanks again for those who do subscribe and comment and thumbs up. It's a massive help, and it gives me motivation, because with this wing here, this door here, part of me getting motivated to crack on with repairing it was knowing that I could make content with it, and I know you guys would enjoy it, so that's motivated me. Thank you very much.